Welcome to NASA@Home Spaceport Series. I'm your host, Madison Tuttle, coming to you live from the vicinity of Kennedy Space Center. Today we have two flight design analysts from NASA's Launch Services program based here at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. NASA's Launch Services program has been launching NASA science missions to study our planet and the universe for 21 years. LSP continues to support the scientific community by launching robotic spacecraft to observe the Earth, visit other planets, and explore the universe. From weather satellites to telescopes to Mars rovers, such as the Mars 2020 Perseverance rover launching this summer, and more. But with these super complex science missions, how does LSP choose the right rocket for each space exploring robot they launch to orbit? I have a short video to show that will explain just that.
What's the right rocket to launch a robot? Find out more right now on Space Shorts. Rockets come in lots of shapes and sizes. So what's the right rocket for a space-exploring robot? Choosing a rocket depends on three things: how much the robot weighs, how far away it's going, and what it's going to do. When the robot is small and light and stays close to study Earth, a small rocket is A-OK. When the robot is large and heavy, with lots and lots of gear, and travels far away in the solar system, a big, powerful rocket is what will do the job. It's hard to find the perfect match, but that's the mission of all the dedicated people in NASA's Launch Services program. They've launched more than 200 rocket-robot combos, connecting us all to discovery in the universe.
Now, once LSP matches the right rocket to a robot, they turn to their flight design analysts to make sure that the robot gets to its intended orbit. With us today on the show are two of LSP's very own flight design analysts, Caley, Burke, and Jeremy Anderson. Caley and Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's great.
So I know that you were both flight design analysts, but can you expand on that and tell us exactly what is your role within the Launch Services program, or even what a flight design analyst is and does?
Sure,
Jeremy,
so
do you want to go first?
Off. Yeah, so we like to see ourselves as the spacecraft's customer to space. We are their guide along the way, and we form these trajectories that takes the rocket from the ground through the Earth's atmosphere and safely into space. Now, once you're in space, the rocket does most of the heavy lifting and ensures that the payload gets to the right orbit. Depending on the mission, this could be the final orbit, or it could be a transfer orbit for the robot or the spacecraft. Some missions, this could be a coast of a few hours, and the spacecraft could then use its own onboard propulsion to insert it into its final orbit, or in some missions, this coast duration can be up to months or years, depending on how far away the robot is going.
So yeah, and a big thing is, as that video showed, those are different rockets, and those are all owned by companies. They're not owned by NASA. That's what we do when we work with the Launch Services program for our primary missions. And so, they're developing the final trajectories. They're going to fly in that rocket. They're going to tell the software to go, but we're there along the way. Years before we select a rocket, we actually will get involved before that right rocket video occurs, because spacecraft are still in the proposal. They're still working to become a real spacecraft, and they need to make sure if they say, hey, NASA, we think we can do some great science, we're there to help them figure out, yes, there is a rocket that can actually fly them to their destination. So, and just so you guys know, this is Ruffles I have here with me. So.
Yes, I'm very sorry for not giving Ruffles a proper introduction, but thank you both for introducing yourselves. Caley, do you want to tell us maybe about a recent mission you worked on, or one that you're working on now, or is there a mission in particular that really sticks out to you?
So, the ones that sticks out for me a lot is the Curiosity rover that launched in 2011. That was my first mission. I started out as a backup, and then and worked the mission as we actually got to launch day. But that one, I came in partway through. But the InSight Mars lander, because Curiosity has been roving the surface since 2012, it launched in 2018 and landed on the surface of Mars. And so that one, I really worked it kind of from the beginning. I worked it and was looking at different trajectories on multiple rockets before we picked one out. I was a part of the process where we selected a rocket, and then worked it all the way through launch and was on console, and even got to go out to JPL for the landing. So I'm very excited for the upcoming Mars 2020 rover this summer. But we want to make sure we don't have just one person in the group who knows how to do Mars landing missions, so other analysts are working that right now.
Awesome. And Jeremy, I know that you've been here about 8 months, I think, so you're a bit newer at this. Can you tell us maybe about a mission you're working on right now?
Yeah, so as Callie mentioned, she started as backup, and that's what I'm currently doing right now on a mission called DART. Now, not too long ago, we would have thought this would be science fiction, but thanks to the amazing joint efforts between NASA and the Applied Physics Laboratory, DART is a mission that will launch in the 2021-2022 timeframe, and that will impact a near-Earth asteroid that's approximately 1.5 football fields large at 13,000 miles an hour, and this will slow down the asteroid enough to be so that the change in the time of the orbit of the asteroid will be visible to Earth. And this is a study to show for planetary protection that we service that we can provide.
Wow, that sounds pretty incredible. Really looking forward to seeing that mission fly. Callie, this question's for you. How many rocket trajectories do you work on at once, and how many are you working on right now?
So for me personally, I did a detail where we go into another group and I worked in commercial crew for about 8 months and then came back. So I'm actually not on a mission right now because of the transition. But at any time, we could be balancing 2 to 5 missions. And so that doesn't always mean we're actively developing trajectories. That means that we're working them in various stages. But for our flight design experts in particular and our lead, it can be quite a few. You know, when you talk about advanced missions, you might have someone come in, they need to have something to look at. So, the 2 to 5 are ones that are like launch services ones that are in the stages before we pick out the rocket. But if you start talking any that you're given in a year, it can be a lot. And there's even ones we advise on. So it makes it fun because you get a variety of missions and a variety of rockets you're looking at.
Definitely. So Jeremy, this question is for you. When you're actually mapping out a launch vehicle trajectory, are you doing any of that by hand, or is it all with computer-aided design systems?
So as we've all seen from Hidden Figures, it can and was done by hand. But now there are a lot of computer programs that we use on a daily basis to help us. Now, that doesn't go to say that we do not use hand calculations on a daily basis to double check the computer simulations. And I will say that a lot of the theory you learn at school is applicable in the daily work environment. So just to serve as a check on the computer.
Gotcha. And how many people make up the flight design team for LSP?
So there's 11 of us right now, and it basically, it's nice. I said we're working, there's multiple missions at a time, but at any point we're coming in and bringing our peer review process. So I will look, help. Our meetings will talk about all the different missions. So it's not just the one that you're working on, which is something I really like about working with it. But also, I talked about I had a lot of Mars experience. So, somebody who may have more experience may come to me. Or even, Jeremy be working on a tool, and I'll come over and talk with him about something he's developing, even though he's been here, just came recently. And yeah, I also grew up, I came here in 2002, and then my full-time career has really been with the Analysis group at Launch Services Program. And I really enjoyed that process and how we work together as a team. If you want to talk a little bit about your experience this year, Jeremy.
Yeah, I have nothing but the same thing to say about Callie. I mean, it is truly a team effort when we put any sort of data analysis product out the door. And not only that, when I first started with the Launch Services Program, each and every person in that team took time to kind of groom me and mentor me along the way. Just little stuff here and there. And then, of course, I had my full-time mentor who really guided me in the right direction.
Awesome. All right, Callie, can you give us kind of a step-by-step guide on flight design, like a beginner's guide to building a vehicle trajectory?
Yeah. Well, one of the first things we should do is step one is really to gather information about the spacecraft mission. And so this is, can be just emails, but really also sometimes good conversations about what's going on with the spacecraft. So a big thing is to figure out what size it is. I have Ruffles. She's a really, I know, sweetie. She's this really small dog, and we have another flight design analyst, Ben. His dog Astro, named after the dog from the Jetsons. Even when he was a puppy, he was 2.5 times size of Ruffle size, but now that he's full grown, he's over 15 times her size. But they're both dogs, just like all our spacecraft are all spacecraft doing science. And so they have different needs we have to consider. Ruffles does not need as much food. She'd be very unhealthy if she ate the same amount of food as Astro. If we traveled and she was in the same crate as Astro, she would get thrown around a car, and that wouldn't be good for her. And Astro just plain old would not fit in her crate, and it would not do well on Ruffles' diet either. But they're both dogs that we love. And it also makes a difference, if we showed the picture of where all the spacecraft can go around our solar system, that makes another big difference. So these are the steps. They have sensitivities. So we're really trying to figure out a lot of information about them early on. And then if it's an advanced mission, then we'll determine which launch vehicles in our fleet could launch the spacecraft. And depending, we might use different launch vehicles and do multiple models. Then step 3, we'll develop a computer model. We'll look, at figure out which program is the best, kind of what outputs we want to look at. And we'll often start with a template or a previous mission that's very similar, and then go through and make updates and kind of break and fix the model, so we get a good look at it. And then step 4, kind of check how optimal it is, make sure it meets all the requirements, and there's lots of going back and forth through these. We'll go talk to people. We'll talk to the launch vehicle contractors, because again, they're the experts on their rocket that we're trying to model. And then step 5, we'll give a presentation to our group. We'll do one of those peer reviews, and they'll look at it. They'll ask questions, make sure that we really probed everything we should be looking at. And often we'll go back and make changes based on that discussion. And then the last step is we'll go back to whoever asked us a question and let them know the answer or give them some data.
Gotcha. Awesome. I think that is all the time that we have today. Caley, Jeremy, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Madison. Pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Bye, Ruffles.
It's a treat.
We're really looking forward to LSP's 2 upcoming missions later this year, including the Mars 2020 Perseverance rover launching this summer, and Sentinel-6, Michael Freilich, launching later this year. If you're looking for more NASA at Home activities, you can head to nasa.gov/nasaathome. Thanks again for joining us, everyone. And remember, even the sky isn't the limit.